When we talk about slavery, most people picture the cotton fields of the American South, the clink of chains, stories like Uncle Tom's Cabin or dramatic Hollywood films. But the truth, both more chilling and more profound, is that slavery is not just an isolated chapter in one country's story. It is a force that made the world as we know it, one whose legacy still lingers, often in shadows we'd rather not explore. Let's step back for a moment to the not-so-distant past. Early 1980s. The world is bustling with television, computers, and pop stars. Yet in the iron and gold mines of Mauritania, in the Western Sahara, people are still working as slaves, legally. Mauritania became the last country in the world to officially abolish slavery in 1981, and only in 2007 did slave owners finally face the threat of real legal punishment. This wasn't some distant oddity. It is part of our modern era. Even now, somewhere between 20 and 40 million people around the globe live in some form of bondage, 10 times more than were enslaved in the entire U.S. before the Civil War. Slavery is an institution with deep roots and lasting consequences. Its shadow is cast over the rise of democracy, the explosion of global trade, the age of colonization, and the birth of our modern world. Entire nations were fed by slave labor, fortunes built on the backs of the powerless. Remembering this is not easy. It can be hard to imagine what it means to own another human being, to see them reduced to property. And yet, all too often, we forget that this reality did not disappear with Lincoln or with emancipation proclamations. Even today, in countries both rich and poor, millions toil in hidden corners for little or nothing, unseen and all too often forgotten. So why do so many history lessons, so many movies, and so many conversations still focus on the U.S. Southern plantations? That story is important, to be sure, but it's only one piece of a much bigger, global puzzle. Slavery was and is everywhere, woven into the fabric of ancient Rome and Greece, present from Africa to Asia, from South America to Europe, touching every continent, every great civilization. Let's try something. Picture yourself, stripped of all wealth, caught for some petty theft in the Aztec Empire. There is no instruction manual, no one to help you. As a punishment for theft, or simply owing money, you could be sold into slavery, given just enough resources for a year of survival. Then after that, handed over as property. If you're lucky, your task might be domestic work or farming. You'd receive clothing, food, shelter, but would no longer control your own fate. In this world, the line between a poor, free person and a slave was paper thin. Some could even buy themselves out of bondage if luck and opportunity aligned. Sometimes their children were born free and could save them. In other places, like among the Vikings, the fate of a slave was even more grim, denied even the most basic human rights. But the question of escape is not so simple. Aztec slaves might try to flee the market where they were being sold. If they succeeded, freedom awaited. But it was a rare gamble. Even the idea of rights for slaves was sometimes recognized, sometimes cruelly and utterly denied. In some cultures, the master was expected to treat their slaves humanely. In others, they were free to use violence, including death, without consequence. What's striking is how normalized this was across history. Ancient texts, from the laws of Babylon and Sumer to Roman household rules, list slaves as possessions alongside livestock and tools. Rarely do these documents justify or debate slavery. They simply assume it, the same way we assume property rights in the modern world. And yet, why did societies cling to slavery for so long? The answer is not just cruelty or ignorance. Slavery could be, at least for a time, a profitable economic engine. In imperial China, slaves could be awarded by the emperor or the state to loyal officials, laboring on vast infrastructure projects. In Rome, enormous estates thrived on the labor of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of enslaved people. The sheer economic benefits were clear, at least to those collecting the profits. We will dive deep, crossing continents and centuries, slipping into the lives of both the enslaved and the enslavers. Some stories will disturb you, some may even horrify. But through this journey, I invite you to look honestly at how civilization was shaped, and is still shaped, by an institution we would all rather forget. Slavery is not just history. It is a mirror, showing us the darkest and most persistent capacities of humanity, one we must face if we ever hope truly to move beyond it. Let's cross oceans and centuries and imagine ourselves beneath the vibrant sun of ancient Central America, a patchwork land of sprawling cities, sacred pyramids, and ceaseless human movement. Walk its busy streets as one of the Aztecs, or perhaps someone who's lost everything, drifting hungry through a world where fate changes in an instant. Steal a loaf of bread, and you become a slave, a tlacatl. Before you know it, the law sweeps you up. Your family's gone, your old life gone too. In your hand, the master places several pieces of cotton cloth, the value of your freedom for one short year. Then, like thousands before you, that year runs out and slavery becomes your only reality. At first, it seems you've landed among the ordinary poor. You're clothed, given meals of maize and squash, maybe even live in your own little shack beside the fields. Within Aztec society, slaves work the same hours, eat the same food, and sometimes marry whomever they choose. Surprisingly, a path to freedom remains. If you're clever or lucky enough to gather some wealth, you can buy yourself out, sometimes after just a few years. A child born in bondage is born free, and one day may even buy your freedom in return. It sounds almost merciful compared to the brutality seen in other lands. Yet always, a shadow hangs overhead, one that makes your existence unpredictable and perilous. Religion is everywhere, and the gods are always watching. Once in a while, a slave is bought not by a farmer or merchant, but by a priest. The unlucky are led up the pyramids, hearts offered to the blazing sun. Women are spared more often, especially those who master the art of embroidery, an esteemed craft that from time to time shields them from ritual death. Daring souls take the chance to escape at the slave market. Custom holds that a slave who flees beyond the boundaries may claim their freedom. It's a running gamble, a brief hope in an otherwise controlled life. But even the rights of slaves rest on the whim of the master. One fatal slip, and you might be sold for sacrifice. Still, in this strange symmetry of Aztec civilization, the day-to-day life of a slave frequently resembles that of a free laborer. Poverty blurs the lines, and sometimes a single unlucky event swaps lives between slave and master. You see this not only in the old city of Tenochtitlan, with its dazzling lakeside views and elevated roads, but everywhere, in the swirl of markets, the rhythm of boats, the hands that build aqueducts and temples. The Aztecs built wonders. They did it all using sweat, determination, and often the forced work of men and women born on the razor's edge of freedom. No wheels, no horses, only human power hauled goods along swampy shores and up mountain tracks. Everyday labor required ingenuity and collective will, but for some, it came at the cost of liberty. But let's not fool ourselves. There was always uncertainty, always risk. Some owners were kind, others ruthless. Some slaves saved their earnings, others waited for a lucky break, and some never had hope at all. For every story of manumission and escape. There are many more of loss and submission. In the end, Aztec slavery leaves us with questions both timeless and poignant. How does a society decide who belongs? Where does mercy end and oppression begin? The answers shift like the borders of their empire, fragile, contested, and drawn time and again in the lives of ordinary people. Next, we'll journey to other corners of the earth, where slavery took on new masks, sometimes harsher, sometimes disguised, but always reshaping what it means to be human and what it means to be free. Imagine yourself in the north, the air sharp and biting, the mornings cold even in spring. Here, among the Vikings and early Europeans, slavery has another name, thrall, and another face, but the burden is just as crushing. You feel the sting of icy wash water each dawn, a belly never really full, the ache in your back that never leaves, and the gnawing truth that your life is not your own. If you're a thrall, you are not really a person in the eyes of the law. You cannot marry, cannot testify, your children inherit your chains. Every waking moment belongs to the master, tending animals, mending sails, carrying water, enduring punishments meted out for any or no reason. On rare feast days, your death is forbidden, for those few hours at least. And if you manage to save some silver, perhaps your master will allow you, one day, to buy back your freedom. But those stories are legends, flickers of hope, passed between the overworked and exhausted. Most thralls die as they lived, nameless, voiceless, lost to history. Yet even the darkest winters end. In rare cases, a master rewards great service or loyalty, granting freedom. You become a lazing, a freed one, able to marry, to work, even to save and pass something on to your children. But even then, your past is a shadow. Ex-masters often hold new rights over your life. And true, generational freedom takes years to claim. Now the scene changes. The winds calm, sunlight cuts through marble columns as we journey to ancient Greece and Rome. Here, slavery is everywhere, yet invisible. A Roman household cannot function, nor can democracy in Athens without slaves. Sometimes in Athens, it's said only a quarter of the people are free men. The slave next to you may look like anyone in the marketplace. The teacher to your child may be a slave with gifts greater than his masters. Roman slaves build roads, amass fortunes for senators, clean and cook, labor in vineyards or mines. Some, lucky or industrious, buy freedom through painstaking savings. A small number become trusted advisors or even citizens, but most endure silence and uncertainty, their humanity defined by their usefulness. Still, the wheels of empire turn. The suffering of thousands supports the luxury, leisure, and learning of a ruling minority. Laws record their lives in ledgers, grouping them with cattle, naming punishments and prices. Philosophers debate justice and rights, but most, like Aristotle, accept slavery as natural and necessary. The voices of the enslaved are never heard. Further east, Russia, too, builds its fields and forests on bound backs. Here, serfdom and slavery intertwine. Serfs can be bought, punished, traded, even confined underground. Rare reforms and moments of mercy only illuminate the harshness of daily life. But change simmers, slow and relentless. As commerce grows, towns expand, and the world opens, the calculus shifts. Free labor, protected contracts, and the budding spirit of human rights prove more profitable and, eventually, more just. Yet the legacies remain. Even now, names, castes, and prejudices linger. The old rationalizations echo in new debates over opportunity, over dignity, over whose voices are heard and whose are lost. Europe's story is not just one of innovation and enlightenment, but also of darkness and denial, of countless lives, stolen for comfort, for profit, for the illusion of order. Before we leave these lands and cross the seas to the plantations of the Americas, reflect. Behind every monument, every golden age of culture and politics, stand those whose labor made splendor possible. Their stories, so often silenced, call us still to remember and perhaps to do better. Let us now shift to the American South, a land where fields of cotton stretch to the horizon, and where the rhetoric of freedom and democracy clashed every day with the brutal reality of human bondage. It's the year 1860 in Virginia, the very heart of plantation country. By law, only black people could be slaves. Across Virginia, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina, slavery is the engine of the agrarian South. On these vast plantations, fields are worked by gangs of laborers, men, women, and children, 16 hours a day under the blazing sun, with the owner's wealth measured in human lives. The life of an American slave was defined by relentless labor and utter precariousness. Imagine you live in a wooden barracks, a dirt floor beneath your feet, a leaky roof above. 40 people crowded into one shelter, sleeping on straw, sometimes on bare earth, taking turns on what passes for a mattress. Food is simple and just enough to live. Cornmeal porridge, maybe a handful of beans or scraps of meat if you're lucky. Every day you harvest cotton or tobacco, 3 to 5 bags per person, each weighing up to 45 kilos. Fall short and you're whipped. Meet or exceed the quota, and the bar is simply raised again. Some slaves are domestic servants. Though their work is somewhat lighter, and they may sleep in separate quarters, their lives are still patrolled by the master's whims, always at risk of punishment or sale. For most, ownership means being denied every right. No protection, no recognition of family. Owners could kill, torture, or sell slaves, and the law would rarely intervene. Families are constantly torn apart, spouses and children sold never to meet again. While black slaves worked under these nightmarish conditions, there existed another form of forced labor: Russian serfdom. Superficially similar, the systems were worlds apart. Serfs in Russia were bound to the land, could be sold, punished, and traded, and had almost no real autonomy. Yet, even in this system, there were some small differences. Serfs lived in their own huts, in family units with communal support, and in rare cases, could buy their freedom, learn trades, or build small businesses. But in America, the industrial power of slavery created colossal fortunes. Owning 30 or more slaves meant annual profits rivaling the salaries of powerful politicians. At the very top, the richest planters controlled vast estates and wielded enormous political might, shaping policies and defending slavery at all costs. Southern slaveholders fiercely resisted change. By the time of the Civil War, they had invested millions buying people, perfecting their production lines, and building a self-justifying ideology around them. Many couldn't see a future without slavery, so much so that they fell into what economists now call a sunk cost trap, defending the old system even as machines and new industries were transforming the North. There's a sad irony here. While slavery built great short-term wealth, it stunted the region long-term. After emancipation, the South remained poorer and less developed for generations, unable to adapt quickly to the demands of modern industry. But the economic story is only half. Slavery in America shaped not only fortunes, but also identities, laws, and ideas about race. Before the transatlantic slave trade, race was hardly a major category. Enslavers and enslaved alike could be of many origins. In the American context, however, skin color became the justification for systematic oppression. Laws were written to cement the hierarchy, exclude, and divide. A racial caste system with its scars persists to this day. Slave narratives are rarely told in their own voices, yet even in oppression, people found ways to resist. There were uprisings, escapes, and an unending yearning for dignity and freedom. Some slaves managed, with great risk, to run away, to the north, to Canada, to Mexico. Others worked, learned, and prayed, enduring, dreaming of a life outside bondage. As we consider this chapter, it becomes clear. American slavery was not just an institution. It was a social and economic engine, a builder of fortunes, an incubator of racism, and a generator of trauma that echoes into the present. From the cracking fields of Virginia to the political debates of the Capitol, the heartbreaks and struggles of these millions are never just stories of the past. They are a warning, a question, and a challenge for every generation that follows. Let's step into the world of today, a world where most of us believe the horrors of slavery ended long ago, buried in textbooks or confined to distant memories. And yet, when we look a little closer, past the bright lights and digital screens, we find a darker reality. Slavery is not just a relic, it's a ghost that haunts the present, changing its face but never quite leaving us, no matter how hard we try to look away. Just imagine. In Mauritania, on the border of the Sahara, men, women, and children worked as slaves well into the recent past. In fact, Mauritania was the last country on Earth to formally abolish slavery, doing so only in the 1980s and barely punishing slave owners until the 21st century. And Mauritania is just the tip of the iceberg. Today, across the planet, at least 40 million people are living and working in conditions that can only be described as slavery, 10 times more than were enslaved in the U.S. before the Civil War. But how? Didn't the world ban slavery everywhere? Officially, yes. But illegality is not immunity. Slavery has simply changed costume. It exists now as human trafficking, debt bondage, forced labor in textile factories and mines, child exploitation, and even within some prison systems, each new form finding its way through gaps in law or moments of desperation. Sometimes, families in poverty sell themselves or their children just to survive. Modern slavery is stealthy, trading the master's whip for legal trickery, threats, forged documents, and the crushing weight of debt. Yet the consequences are as devastating as ever. Forced labor still builds cities, harvests crops, sews our clothes, and mines our phones' rare metals. If today's slaves formed a nation, its economic output would rival wealthy world countries. And unlike in centuries past, these millions suffer in the shadows, hidden from headlines, ignored by most who benefit from the cheap goods made by invisible hands. The world's shock at America's plantations or Rome's cruel Colosseum is rarely echoed by the outcry of our modern sweatshops and labor camps. Even now, freedom is still a privilege, not a birthright, in many corners of the world. But perhaps the worst legacy is the mental one. The hierarchies and justifications built to defend slavery centuries ago still influence how we see race, class, and opportunity today. Pseudoscientific truths invented to explain away cruelty or inequality endure in subtle policies and attitudes. The historic profits of slave labor shaped cities, universities, even the political balance of nations. The ghost lingers not just in memories, but in the very structures of our societies. Some will say, things are getting better. There are laws, NGOs, and brave journalists exposing abuse. And it's true. Light does chase away the worst horrors. Abolitionists of the past have heirs in today's activists, risking everything to rescue and defend the voiceless. But progress is slow. By some estimates, Over 10,000 people would have to be freed every single day for the next decade just to eradicate modern slavery by 2030. And yet, even as we face this unfinished story, there is hope and agency. Every act of witness and every story shared brings us closer to a future where no one is property, where dignity, not despair, shapes the human condition. The challenge is not just to free those in chains, but to uproot the ideas and excuses that allowed slavery to survive for generations, adapting with each new age. So as you leave this chapter, remember, slavery never ended. It just took on new forms. Our comfort and progress have a cost, and only through awareness, action, and refusing to be silent can we finally bring the last shadow of slavery into the light. The end of this story has not been written. Perhaps it's up to us to finish it, together. As we reach the end of this journey through centuries and continents, let's take a breath, not just to reflect, but to feel the weight and the wonder of what we've uncovered together. Slavery is not just a chapter in history books or a story of suffering far away. It is a force that has shaped the world we share and the lives we lead, often in ways we barely notice. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the scale of injustice, the broken families, the quiet courage, the profits and the pain. Yet these stories are not only about loss and cruelty. They are about the almost unbreakable spirit of people who, in the darkest circumstances, found ways to endure, to resist, and even to dream of freedom. Those dreams did not always come true in one lifetime, but they became seeds for change that would grow for generations. Even now, the shadows of the past linger. Prejudices and old ideas sometimes slip unnoticed into new laws and attitudes. Economic systems and social hierarchies can still carry echoes of the chains we think we've left behind. But recognizing this is not reason for shame. It is an invitation to honesty and to hope. What matters most is how we respond. Do we turn away, overwhelmed, or lean in, determined to see and to change? Each act of understanding, a story listened to, a question asked, a moment of empathy, is a small, powerful step toward a world where no one is owned, where dignity belongs to all. So thank you for walking this road with me. May what you've heard not only stir compassion, but spark your own questions, conversations, and choices. The story of slavery is unfinished, its last page unwritten. But perhaps with the courage to look deeply and act kindly, we can help craft an ending worthy of all those whose voices, dreams, and dignity have shaped our shared past and our future.